Thanks for joining us. My name is Dan. I'm here from Fischer, and today I am joined by Dr. Papadeas. Dr. Papadeas, thanks for taking the time to talk with us. And so, if you want to kind of briefly introduce yourself, your clinic, and kind of what you've been doing for the past few decades in medicine.
Sure. So Dr. Gregory Papadeas, I'm part of advanced dermatology here in Denver, Colorado for the past 30 years. We treat a wide variety of patients, both medically and surgically. We treat a number of patients with hyperhidrosis, and it's certainly not treating and curing skin cancer, but it's improving and helping the quality of life of these individuals significantly. So we're happy that we have an armamentarium of various treatment options these days, and one of them, what we utilize, is that of iontophoresis.
Right. Yeah. And so that's how we kind of got started on this conversation. It was a family member who reached out and said, hey, I've been using this for a long time, and I was just kind of doing some research, and looks like you guys have a new device. And so it was nice to be able to connect, because I know you've referred a lot of hyperhidrosis patients over the last 30 years. And in that time, the science hasn't changed a lot. Right. There may be some new names out there and things like that, but the concept of metal electrodes and water bath trays to deliver that current and the minerals into the skin hasn't changed. And so it's been exciting to launch our new device and to be able to work with, more clinics like yours to, educate staff and patients on the new options that are out there. And so from your experience, what type of patient really is iontophoresis a good fit for? Or when is it kind of that default thing that you like to prescribe for hyperhidrosis patients?
Sure. I think that anybody who has daily and routine difficulty with this sweaty palms, arms, underarms, or feet is a candidate for iontophoresis. There's no treatment that works wonderfully, or there's no treatment that cures this problem. So we have to describe to these patients that we're in a point of managing their problem in a safe and effective manner. And some of the people who have light hyperhidrosis do reasonably well with the various topical medications, either that be over the counter or prescription wise. But there are many patients who have true hyperhidrosis that their quality of life is very much impaired by this problem, or by this disease factor. And so for us to have the option of iontophoresis has been of great value to me in our entire practice career. And in my own family member, my oldest daughter has had this problem now since she was, maybe 10, 12 years old. But this has been a very great opportunity for her to increase the quality of her life, because it's a little bit cumbersome, but fortunately with the advancement of your technology through Fischer, it's improved that quite a bit. And even with the old machine, so to speak, it was great and worked out fine. But this new machine has really made it that much more better and much more independent, whereby she doesn't have to depend on a family member or a friend to turn on the machine. They can do it now automatically. And so that's been a great advantage.
Right. So this is kind of a personal issue for you too, right? Because you have direct experience working with hyperhidrosis. Now, for patients out there who might be struggling with sweat, what would you say are some of the maybe identifiers between you realizing you have light hyperhidrosis or maybe you have severe hyperhidrosis? What are some of the things that someone might look out for?
Well, I would say the people that really get the severe hyperhidrosis, whereby their palms particularly are sweaty all the time, and so they're in social settings or professional settings and they have shaky people's hands, maybe not as much during the COVID time, but that's our normal culture, it's a problem. The other thing, probably, it's very difficult to write or to do a lot of your desk work oftentimes because your palms are sweating so much. What I hear a lot from patients is when their underarms are sweating so much that they get rings underneath their armpits on their clothing, and they have to adjust and make differences of what clothing they wear because of that. I think the feet are a problem as well for many people, but it doesn't seem as much as the axillary or the hands challenge, because their feet, people just are not interacting with their feet on a regular basis.
We come up with systems, and the feet are easier to hide, right? Because we can wear more socks and things like that. And so I've dealt with a lot of patients who say, the priorities are the hands or the underarms. And with the new device, they no longer have to kind of sacrifice time because, for the feet, again, they were like, well, I don't have another 20 minutes to do that. With the new device, and being able to do hands and feet at the same time to effectively treat twice as fast has been huge for patients to no longer kind of have to make those sacrifices. So you had mentioned, the idea of with older traditional iontophoresis devices, having to have someone physically present to flip a switch. So can you kind of talk through that and how you've used the device maybe in clinic in the past and introduced patients to iontophoresis that way?
Sure. So both in clinic and in my own household, we've utilized this device of iontophoresis. And so with the old technology, we've always had to have a clinical staff person turn on the machine, turn on the timer, and then get back to that person in 10, 15 minutes, whatever the duration is, and to turn off the machine, switch hands, or switch directions of the current, and then start it all over again. And so they were 100% dependent upon another person, whether it be a family member, a friend, or a clinical staff, to utilize this iontophoresis device. In this new technology, it really has been improved significantly. And I applaud you guys. I salute you guys. So now that person can just sit at their desk at their privacy of their home, turn on the machine, put their hands into the water bath there, and it instantly goes for the 20 minutes duration, 10 minutes this direction, 10 minutes that direction, and it's very time efficient, very safe, effective. If the results are as effective as the old technology, which I'm sure they are, it'll be fantastic. And if maybe it's improved, all the more power to you. But again, this new technology has allowed for them to become independent. They don't have to go somewhere. They just do it in the privacy of their home, and it is a time efficient manner as well.
Exactly, especially in today's day and age with COVID, right? And not, everyone being kind of confined to home. It's nice to have a solution that, as you said, you are self-sufficient and dependent on. There's no batteries required, right? You plug it right into the wall. No prescription refills that you have to run out, worry about things running out, and sustaining that way. And so what you're referring to directly is that automatic polarity switch, which allows patients, or the device automatically switches between the positive and negative polarity halfway through the treatment. It's interesting with our new device. And so, traditionally when that switch was happening, patients didn't really know, well, you either had to do it manually, or even in traditional devices that had that auto feature, you didn't really know when it was happening. It just kind of happened, and maybe you feel something, maybe you didn't. With our new Fischer, there's an active treatment display on the main control unit that actually shows you in physical bar graphs as the power ramps up and ramps down. So you can see halfway through the treatment that it's starting to ramp down as it switches polarities and ramps back up. So it's a nice visual feedback to, number one, know that the treatment is working. See it exactly, that something's happening beyond just the, oh, I feel the tingling, right? And when that polarity switch is happening, that's when you see that feedback. And in terms of being able to use it on your own, a lot of patients in the past have been very hesitant because the idea of metal and electricity and water, and it seems like, is this safe? Will I get zapped? And maybe a patient just tried to put one hand in it to test it first, and that's a no-no because you're not completing the circuit, right? With those traditional devices. But with our new one, there is anti-shock guard technology built in. Basically, it's software that proactively identifies voltage peaks to then cut off power to the machine so that those little zaps and things no longer are an issue for patients. And so particularly for patients who are starting out with iontophoresis, it allows them to really, test it out themselves. Okay, you know what? I feel like I could tolerate a higher milliampere. Let me take my hands out, make adjustments, put them back in. So you have some more flexibility and be able self-sufficient. One thing I wanted to ask you about is your experience of having an iontophoresis device in clinic. I think it's something that not a ton of dermatological offices have in clinic. And so maybe it's something that they'd heard about, but had never had seen. Same thing with patients, right? It's often kind of almost just a conceptual, they're like, I know it's an option, but I don't know what one looks like or how to use it. So what would you say is the benefit of a dermatologist or a doctor having one of these devices in clinic to be able to introduce patients to it?
I would share with you that generally speaking, we encourage patients to, hopefully through their insurance, to secure and purchase that device so they have it in their home at their flexibility. So generally speaking, we really encourage that way. On occasion, we can have a patient who's not able to do that and then come to clinic to do it. The advantage is it allows that patient a place to go and they have help to do that. With this new technology, you really don't need that. And so I think all the more with this new technology, we will discourage that all the more because they don't need to be dependent upon us. I think it's a little bit of an economic decision or challenge, and sometimes patients aren't able to finance their machine the way they'd like to. And so that's really what I think comes down to the decision. But if they're able to use it on their own benefit in their own privacy of their home, we much more prefer that and encourage that.
Right. And so here at Fischer, we have treatment specialists that are personally assigned to every patient that we work with who is able to look into that patient's insurance. We do work with some major insurance companies, including TRICARE, UMR, Aetna, and some of those. So even if patients are just curious, we always encourage them, reach out, let us explore your benefits and eligibility, maybe even for existing iontophoresis patients who've been doing it for a long time. And 10 years ago, we didn't have these systems of support in place for them to be able for us to work with insurance companies, and now we do. So always something to where, even if you've been successful with iontophoresis in the past, no harm looking into your insurance options, especially as we get later in the year and patients' deductibles are being met. Let's explore, let's get you into a new machine, because we've been working with a lot of our existing patients, since we launched the new Fischer earlier this year, to upgrade from devices that they've had for 20 plus years and have been really happy with. But now when they see things like, oh, I can do my hands and feet at the same time, as you mentioned, oh, I don't need someone else present to do this for me, fantastic, let's look into this. And so, it's been really exciting to do all of that. I wanted to actually show you too now, Dr. Papadeas, these new silicone graphite electrodes. So I don't think yours has actually arrived yet, but when it does, this is really that game-changing technology that we're talking about compared to those traditional metal plates, right, that were rigid. They had the 90-degree angle right here that would create an open metal contact point with a live electrical feed in the water, which if the patient, came into contact with it too long, might get an electrical burn, not even know it's happening. And so, now no metal, they're soft, they're flexible, and specifically for the underarms, because a lot of hyperhidrosis patients, just didn't know that, this type of technology was available for underarms. And so here's an example of those axillary electrodes. Again, small, flexible. If you're just thinking in terms of why this makes sense, your underarms, not a flat area. Doesn't make sense to treat it with a rigid flat metal electrode. So this is going to contour much more effectively, and they slide right into these sponge pad sleeves right here. Very comfortable for patients. And then everything, slides very nice and compact into this carrying storage bag that we have right here for everything. So it gets away from that traditional, cased design to where maybe patients treating hands would get some of the ridges on their wrists when treating and things like that. And so, definitely love to, and looking forward to working with you and future patients, existing patients as they come back for checkups. I know we've sent over one of our PRP packages to your office so you guys can have some more materials and things like that. And then in terms of coverage options too, do you have a lot of patients who are looking to go through insurance reimbursement with some of these things?
We do. It goes both ways. Some insurances have been allowing for it, some have not been allowing for it, so it's really unique to the individual patient. But I do find it's such a quality of life benefit that patients are willing to pay out of pocket. And I think you guys have a new financing program too that allows them to get into the machine a little bit easier as well. And I think that's very smart and beneficial to the patients because they appreciate that.
We do, yeah. We have a monthly payment plan option now. It's nice for, my experience working with a lot of these patients over the years. They've tried a lot of other things, right? They've gotten their hopes up. They've invested money before. They've been told and promised things, and it didn't work out. And so now suddenly when you're presenting them with another investment and another kind of chance that they're taking, it can be, and we totally understand. And so that way, with our monthly payment plan, they don't owe anything up front. It allows them to get the device, verify that it's a good fit for them, because most patients do see results within the first 2 weeks.
So
it's nice to get that feedback. Then, first payment's not due for 30 days and they can spread it out over 3, 6, or 12 months. And they can do that while they're still submitting everything to their insurance company. And we now have a packet that walks patients through that reimbursement process, because I think in the past, it was just kind of left up to patients to just, go figure it out, right? And insurance is complicated enough without you having to then venture through that maze. So we've created very specific, here's what you're going to ask them for, here's what you're going to submit to them. We have an insurance packet for offices like yours that doctors, dermatologists can complete, that gives patients all of really the support that they need, whether they're working directly with an insurance company like RA Fischer can, or they're going the reimbursement route because they want to get the device faster, which a lot of patients do. So have a lot of support out there so never hesitate to reach out and have patients, engage with us.
Appreciate
and
that.
ask us questions.
Appreciate that. Great.
My kind of one of my last questions for you, doctor, is what's one of, would you say, either the largest misconceptions about iontophoresis, or what's kind of one of the big questions and regular questions you get from patients when you're first talking to them about it?
Oh, I think that without a doubt, they just don't know it's available. They don't even know what it is. It's understandable. They've
Right.
never heard of it. They don't know about it. They've tried a lot of different things over the counter or maybe prescription wise. But even I think in the medical community, a lot of people are not that aware of it, quite honestly. And so I think it's just knowing about it and educating the patient population to know that this is an offering that will provide the benefit. And again, I've had many patients utilize the machine on the device over the years, and I've never had a patient that doesn't work. The question is what's your frequency, what's your timing? But as you know, once you get on a frequent regimen plan, you can back it up quite a bit, and you can do it once a week, once every couple of weeks. But I've never had a patient not tell me it doesn't work. I think it's just educating the population to know that it's available, and if they can get on board with it, they do.
Absolutely, and that's one of the benefits of being able to work with a treatment specialist, right? Who can
That's a great idea.
Tailor it around someone. We take a 3-phased approach to treatment. So first is within that 2 weeks of using the device every other day as your body gets acclimated to it. Then, as you said, that slow kind of weaning off period to where most patients I work with do settle into like a once every 2 to 4 week kind of cadence. And it's nice, you establish a routine, you pop on Netflix. I think it's a mindset too. You don't want to think of it as a treatment, right? It's more, think of it as a spa session or something like that.
It's kind of a fun, relaxing time.
Exactly, yeah, because it's all my treatments are, who likes to do treatment? But as you'd already mentioned, this is a quality of life investment. I talk to patients all the time, especially younger patients, whether it's, patients as young as 6 years old we've dealt with and talking to their parents. More specifically, more regularly high school and college age students. But we tell them it's not just about treating the symptoms. It's about opening up these possibilities. It's about confidence, not having to limit yourself to certain career paths because you're like, okay, I can't do anything that requires shaking hands or doing this or that. Even though I love it, I can't do it because of this reason. And so we do, it's one of the most rewarding things of this. Is being able to, open those up. And so the last thing I want to leave you with, Doctor, is I would love to, if you or your staff or anyone has any questions, I'd love to schedule kind of some training. And so that way we can do a video share just like we're doing right now. I can take out, our new Fischer and all the parts and all the components, and we'll go over, how to use everything, how to set it up, the different features and things like that. So that way your staff is, as educated in it, almost as some of our treatment specialists.
Okay, no, that sounds good. How much time do you need for that, Dan?
As much time as really as you're willing to give. So we can schedule, an hour block next week or whenever you'd like. And that way I can do the whole tutorial, and we can leave plenty of time for both you and your staff to ask as detailed questions as possible, whether it's specifically about the device and the technology, or if it's just about the science behind, what's happening, whatever it is. Would love to review that with you guys.
Okay, if we're able to do that, we'll try and organize something like that.
Yeah, sounds great. And so again, Dr. Papadeas, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. I know we've gotten to talk on the phone a couple of times, so it's nice always putting a face to the name too. And looking forward to working more with you and your patients and your clinic for years to come.
Great, thank you. Thank you for the wonderful service you provide our community. It's a great benefit to our patient population.
Well, thank you very much for that. All right. Have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon.